The House will come to order. The delegate from Richmond City, Delegate Adams.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise for an announcement.
Delegate Adams, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker and members of the Assembly, I would ask you to consider signing on to the memorial resolution for former Lieutenant Governor John Hager. I have submitted electronically requests for signature, and if you're so inclined, please do so sometime before Monday. And I thank you, Madam Speaker and members of the Assembly. I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Delegate Adams. Delegate from Prince William, Delegate Rome.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just wanted to note my attendance. My modem had restarted right before roll call, so I just wanted to note that I'm here.
Thank you, Delegate Rome. The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Simon.
Madam Speaker, I rise for a motion.
Delegate Simon, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, having voted on the prevailing side by which we engrossed House Bill 5030, which is on page 2 of today's calendar, I move that we reconsider that vote so we get that bill back onto second read so we can make some technical amendments.
Delegate Simon moves, having voted on the prevailing side by which the House, House Bill, what's the bill number?
5030.
5030 was engrossed, moves that we reconsider 5030 at this time. All those in favor shall say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. HB 5030 is reconsidered.
Adjustments to the
Madam Clerk. Pursuant to House Rule 30, the Journal shall reflect that the following members are away on pressing personal business and are granted leave from today's session. It's Delegate Wright. The clerk will please announce the next order of business.
second morning hour order of business. The next order of business is the announcement of member requests to move legislation from any uncontested to regular calendar. I have no such requests.
The clerk will please announce the next order of business.
Third morning hour order of business. This order of business is requests by members for legislation to go by for the day and the subsequent motion by the majority leader. On page 12 of the calendar, House Joint Resolution 5002 will go by for the day.
The clerk will please announce the next order of business. Delegate from Alexandria, Leader Herring.
Madam Speaker, I move that the previously reported legislation go by for the day.
Delegate Herring moves that the legislation just read by the clerk, HB 5002, shall go by for the day. All those in favor shall say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
It goes by for the day. The clerk will please announce the next order of business.
Fourth morning hour order of business. The next order of business is for points of personal privilege, and the Speaker requests members to use their request to speak buttons to be called upon.
Does any member have any further announcements, introductions, or motions pursuant to Rule 39?
Madam Speaker, this is Delegate Wampler. I'd like to rise for a point of personal privilege.
The delegate from Washington, Delegate Wampler, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, apologize if I look a little haggard today. I'm tired, restless, I'm angry, but I'm not coming to you all out of anger. I know that doesn't get anything done in this body. Madam Speaker, I made a speech yesterday, stood up, spoke against some legislation that I feel strongly against and I'm opposed to. I think that's my job as a delegate, to speak to the bills that are before this body. Got a lot of you stirred up, and I think that's a good thing, because it's the most debate that's happened on the floor since special session started. And I probably shouldn't have talked about policy and the structure of this session in that speech yesterday. There are a lot of things that are bothering me. Madam Speaker, I heard yesterday that this is a process, this is a process, this is a process. Madam Speaker, there are a lot of us that are struggling with the process, and it's not the technology. It's not working an iPad, and it's not working a laptop. Madam Speaker, what I want to talk to the body about is structural, and it is mechanical. It's about this special session, how it's taking place. From the first day that we gavelled in here in Richmond at VCU, you all stepped on the rules that we set up to govern this body. We objected to going virtually, having this session in virtual format, and instead of abiding by that vote, you did it by a simple majority in a resolution. And that's okay. People of Virginia, they don't care about our rules. They don't care about the House procedures. They've got bigger fish to fry. And I'm with them in that regard. But it didn't just stop at the first day of the special session. As soon as committees started meeting, started getting reports of registered attendees, even pre-registered attendees. You know, the people who really want to speak to these issues, to the members of this body and to the committees, they started telling us they can't be heard, and they're not being heard. This is a problem in an open government. Speaking of committees, Madam Speaker and members, we had an appropriations meeting this week, several, and that House bill on qualified immunity came up. The vote was such that it didn't report out of committee, or at least it shouldn't have by the rules. Most of the people that I've talked to thought that the bill was dead. Law enforcement from across the state thought that the bill was dead. But you all couldn't abide by that vote. And now the bill is before us and for third reading today. Madam Speaker, it doesn't just stop at committees, though. Now, I may be young and I may be a freshman of this body. This isn't the first time I've ever been to Richmond. I've been coming up here and watching the legislature almost my entire life. I've seen Republican majorities and Democrat majorities in the House and the Senate come and go. I've seen Republican governors and Democratic governors come and go. But what I have never seen in my life is what's happened twice now since I was sworn in as delegate back in January. And that is this Capitol be gated off and boarded up. The public prohibited from coming into our offices and interacting with us as delegates at a time when we're in session writing laws that are going to affect each and every one of them. We call ourselves a representative democracy. Where are the people that we represent? They're not in this Capitol. I heard you yesterday saying it was exaggeration and rhetoric. Look at the boards put up on the Capitol building. Look at the gates right behind me. This isn't rhetoric. This is what's happening. And I know what you're going to say, members from across the aisle. You're going to say these are unprecedented times. It's coronavirus. We've got to look out for the safety of our families and ourselves and others. I'm with you in that regard. I have a family too. But that wasn't the case in January. Coronavirus wasn't the fear of the day. The last time I saw boards put up on the Capitol and people prohibited from being in our committee meetings and in our offices, I saw gates go up with barbed wire on them. When 30,000 people showed up to say that they didn't approve of your gun reform agenda. I know that what I said yesterday on the floor didn't have any effect. I watched the votes. Party line on most of these issues. And that's okay. That's what I meant when I said I didn't know what I'm doing here. Because the things that I'm saying to other delegates aren't resonating. It doesn't feel to me that there is any compromise on these issues. You've got to figure out exactly where you want to go and you're going there. The state is completely controlled by the Virginia Democrats right now. In the House, in the Senate, Attorney General's office, and the governor's mansion for now. People are looking to you for leadership. I won't cast any criticisms further than what I have done. Madam Speaker, I say that a government without the people there at this process, at our sessions, to talk to us, is no government at all. We shouldn't take another vote in this body until this Capitol is reopened. People are allowed to be here and watch what we're doing in person, not virtually. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I hope we can make that happen, if not for special, but for the regular session in January. Thank you, members, for listening to me.
The clerk will please call the calendar.
House calendar for September 4. Senate bills on third reading regular calendar. Senate Bill 120, a bill to amend and reenact Chapter 1289 of the Acts of Assembly of 2020, which appropriates the public revenues for 2 years ending respectively on June 30, 2021 and June 30, 2022 by adding an item numbered 86.10 relating to the General Appropriation Act, appropriation of funds for the Department of Elections, reported from Appropriations.
The delegate from Prince William, Delegate Torian.
Madam Speaker, can that go by temporarily, please?
The House will be at ease.
I don't know.
Delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Sickles.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill is the cognate of my bill that passed the House having to do with election administration in this one election coming up on November 3rd in pandemic. First thing it does is reimburse localities for the postage on the return absentee envelope. Second thing it does, it provides for secure drop boxes or to be available at polling places in satellite locations and other secure locations in concert with the standards that the Board of Elections will, the Department of Elections will promulgate. Number three, it allows the registrars to contact a voter if there's been an immaterial mistake made on the absentee ballot. And finally, it adopts the consent decree that has come down from the courts that was used in June 23rd primaries for the materiality of the witness signature on the outer envelope. That's what the bill does. It's those four things, and I hope it'll be the pleasure of the House to pass the Senate version of this bill.
Thank you, Delegate Sickles. The delegate from Accomack, Delegate Bloxham.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just real quick, to reiterate, this is a huge cost to localities. In appropriations, the lockbox that could be used, could be inside, could be posted, but he also, the patron of the bill also said that it would need to be a camera, have to have some type of surveillance. They're not cheap just let everybody know this is going to be a huge cost to our local registrar's office. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Shall the bill pass?
Madam Speaker.
Oh, Delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Sickles.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I mentioned that a camera would be one way to provide security. I did not say that was the only way to provide security for these drop-off locations. Just like to make that clear.
Thank you, Delegate Sickles. Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
I'll call the names of those who I can't see their vote. Delegate Bourne.
Aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Brewer. Delegate Davis.
Nay.
Delegate Davis votes nay. Delegate Guzman.
Aye.
Delegate Guzman votes aye.
The clerk will please close the roll.
Ayes 55, nays 43, abstentions 0.
Ayes 55, nays 43, abstention 0. The bill passes.
House bills on third reading uncontested calendar. House Bill 5068.
Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
I'll call the names of those who have not yet voted. Delegate Bourne. Delegate Davis.
Aye.
Delegate Davis votes aye. Delegate Guzman.
Aye.
Delegate Guzman votes aye. Delegate Mullen.
Delegate Bourne votes aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Reed. Delegate Simon.
Aye.
Delegate Reed
Delegate Reed
votes
votes
aye. Delegate Simon has voted. Delegate Webert has voted.
The clerk will please close the roll.
Ayes 82, nays 16, abstentions 0.
Ayes 82, nays 16, abstention 0. The bill passes.
House bills on third reading regular calendar. Page 3, House Bill 5058. A bill to amend and reenact sections 15.2, 919, and other sections of the Code of Virginia relating to issuing citations, possession of marijuana, and certain traffic offenses.
Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Aird. Delegate Bourne.
Delegate Bourne votes aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Davis.
No.
Delegate Davis votes nay. Delegate Guzman.
Aye.
Delegate Guzman votes aye.
The clerk will please close the roll.
Ayes 54, nays 44, abstentions 0.
Ayes 54, nays 44, abstention 0. The bill passes.
Page 3 of the calendar, House Bill 5059, a bill to amend the Code of Virginia by adding a section numbered 8.01, 225.03, relating to certain hospices, home care organizations, private providers, assisted living facilities, and adult daycare centers, immunity from civil liability, COVID-19, emergency.
Shall the bill pass?
Yeah, can you tell Peter we got it? I was going to text him.
Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Delegate Bourne votes aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Guzman.
Aye.
Delegate Guzman votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 84, nays 13, abstentions 0.
Ayes 84, nays 13, abstention 0. The bill passes.
Page 4, House Bill 5062, a bill to amend and reenact Section 19.2, 265.6 of the Code of Virginia relating to dismissal of criminal charges on Commonwealth's motion.
Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Delegate Bourne votes aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Guzman.
Aye.
Delegate Guzman votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 55, nays 43, abstentions 0.
Ayes 55, nays 43, abstention 0. The bill passes.
House Bill 5099, a bill to amend and reenact Section 19.256 of the Code of Virginia relating to search warrants, prohibition on no-knock search warrants.
The delegate from Hanover, Delegate Fowler.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speak to the bill.
Delegate Fowler, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of the House, first I want to correct the record from yesterday. The Chesterfield Police Department does not support House Bill 5099. Second, and more importantly, I don't believe we have considered the unintended consequences related to this legislation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, members of the body, the main reason for why we have what we call a no-knock warrant is so that the police can neutralize a very dangerous and potentially violent confrontation between the police and suspects and the public. You know, this legislation, House Bill 5099, eliminates this possibility, and I believe ensures more violence and not less, which will mean more dead and wounded law enforcement and citizens, you know, not less. Madam Speaker, this one item makes clear to me that we haven't spent enough time on this legislation and that the public would be better served had House Bill 5099 been introduced in the 2021 regular session. And lastly, Madam Speaker, and more importantly, neither the Virginia Association of Chiefs of Police, the Virginia Sheriff's Association, nor the Virginia State Police Association support this bill. As a matter of fact, oppose House Bill 59. So thank you, Madam Speaker, and because of all these reasons, I urge the members to reject House Bill 5099 so that we can come back and actually get this legislation right. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Delegate Fowler. The delegate from Petersburg, Delegate Aird.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaking to the bill.
Delegate Aird, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate those comments from Delegate Fowler, but I would first just like to state that if he'd like to see the correspondence from the Chesterfield Police Chief, which is the district that I partially represent, I'm happy to provide it to him. And I would urge him to have a conversation. And so I take issue with the doubt cast on the comments that I made yesterday regarding the position. In addition to that, I'll just address two further things. As it pertains to the affiliations that he's referenced from law enforcement, if he'll recall the delegate's question yesterday regarding who I'd worked with in crafting the legislation, all of those entities did provide me their input. I have the correspondence from them, and he can run the tape back from the courts committee regarding the Virginia State Police position and the affirmation of the use of the no-knock warrant here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I just want to clarify those comments that he made. And I think it's important to also not mischaracterize the opposition. No law enforcement officer that I have spoke to, even Maggie with the Virginia Association of the Chief of Police, have stated that they are in opposition to eliminating the no-knock search warrant. The correspondence and the comments that I have received to date have all indicated their concern about their ability to still act and have a tool during emergency situations, which I referenced yesterday very clearly regarding exigent circumstances. I will just close by saying that in addition to talking to law enforcement, I would encourage all of my colleagues to also talk to the people that they represent. I find it very rare. In fact, I have not come across one individual who feels comfortable with the idea knowing that someone, law enforcement included, can barge into their homes unannounced and expect that they should not react, that they should not protect themselves or their families. And so, yes, we have a responsibility to work with law enforcement, but we also have a responsibility to represent our people to the fullest extent. This, by far, is the easiest form of criminal justice policy that you could be supporting. And the idea that it saves lives and you're unwilling to do that for law enforcement and the people you represent, I think I would encourage you to not move this to 2021, and I would encourage you to continue to support its full passage here today. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Delegate Ayer. The delegate from Virginia Beach, Delegate Converse Fowler.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaking to the bill.
Delegate Converse Fowler, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to speak on behalf of this bill. When I consider the things that my husband could happen to him at work, some of them are come down to his safety. And when there was a time when I was pregnant with our first daughter that there was a couple hours where I didn't hear from him, that he was involved in some type of escaped inmate situation. There was something that had happened where he went into harm's way, and the few hours really bothered me that I couldn't reach him. And these no-knock warrants are issued just for reference at night. I mean, they're usually in the middle of the night or early in the morning when the element of surprise is kind of to the advantage. And I know that if my husband were to go into a situation where he is surprising people and just for evidence, let's say it's just for evidence sake, I wouldn't want him to go into that situation and have to risk his life for a situation that is just to get evidence. So I appreciate this bill very much. And just think about law enforcement and their safety also when you are thinking about this bill, because I think it keeps everyone safe, not to create a situation where everybody is heightened and there could be confrontation. So thank you again, and I hope you'll vote for this bill.
Thank you, Delegate Converse Fowler. Shall the bill pass?
Madam Speaker,
yes, Delegate from Albemarle, Delegate Bell.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So, appreciate everybody's comments, but again, the ones on the front line, the Sheriff's Association, the Chiefs of Police, Virginia State Police Association, have said, we don't use this often, but when we need it, we really need it, and all we're asking you to do is put in an exception so we can get it in those emergency situations when our people will be at risk if they go in, where they knock and give notice and give people a warning that they're coming in. Now, exigent circumstances is a red herring. That's not a warrant issue at all. In fact, the case law that talks about it talks about the degree of urgency involved and the time required to get a warrant. If a member of law enforcement is chasing someone into a building, that's an exigent circumstances. But if they're sitting outside a fortified drug house where the people inside are armed and they're worried about what will happen when they go in, that is not available to them. What's available is especially not available to them if we pass this bill. If this bill passes, it'll mean they have to go in with the knock and give people time to arm themselves. It puts our officers at risk. I hope you vote no. Thank you.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Watts. Delegate Watts?
Madam Speaker, the delegate's on mute.
Delegate Watts, I believe you're on mute.
My
Please
deep
unmute.
apologies, I know better.
Delegate Watts.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I would urge all my colleagues and the public to pull up the video of the courts committee meeting discussion of this bill. It was as robust as I have ever experienced in the many years on the courts committee and the long night hours that court spends to get these bills right. This was in that tradition. And the bottom line that you will see in this debate as it went from point to point on the bill, that the bill merely codifies what courts have already found about the proper procedures to be followed in searches. I commend the patron for having brought forth this bill, and I believe that there has been a lot of misunderstanding that, again, I think the Courts Committee dealt with very responsibly, and I would urge you to watch that video.
Thank you, Delegate Watts. Delegate Fowler, did you have your request to speak light on again, or was that from before? Okay, Madam Clerk, shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Delegate Bourne votes aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Kilgore.
No.
Delegate Kilgore votes nay. Delegate Leftwich. Delegate Walker.
Clerk will please close the roll.
Ayes 56, nays.
Walker, no.
Will the clerk please destroy the roll? HB 5099. Shall the bill pass?
Madam Speaker,
Delegate from Shenandoah, Delegate Gilbert.
Madam Speaker, I apologize. I am advised that Delegate Leftwich, who is present for today's session, has been kicked out of the session, and this happened to him 3 times the other day, 2 of which he was never able to record a vote. Could the staff reestablish his connection before we proceed with this vote, please?
The House will be at ease. Yes, Delegate Gilbert. The House will be at ease. House will come to order. HB 5099. Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Delegate Bourne votes aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Kilgore.
No.
Delegate Kilgore votes nay. Delegate Corey. Delegate Leftwich. Delegate Price.
Yes.
Delegate Price votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 56, nays 41, abstentions 0.
Ayes 56, nays 41, abstention 0. The bill passes.
House Bill 5112, a bill to amend and reenact Section 5230.1 of the Code of Virginia and to amend the Code of Virginia by adding sections numbered 15.2, 1704.1, and 1704.2 relating to law enforcement officer, duty to render aid, duty to report wrongdoing by another law enforcement officer, penalty.
Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Corey. Delegate Price.
Aye.
Delegate Price votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 54, nays 43, abstentions 0.
Ayes 54, nays 43, abstention 0. The bill passes. The House will be at ease. To order. Madam Clerk.
Page 5 of the calendar, House Bill 5013, a bill to amend the Code of Virginia by adding sections numbered 8.01 42.6 and 8.01 42.7 relating to civil action for deprivation of rights, duties and liabilities of certain employers in employing or contracting for the services of law enforcement officers.
The delegate from Virginia Beach, Delegate Miaris.
Madam Speaker, permission to speak to the bill?
Delegate Miaris, you have the floor.
Thank you. I appreciate just a quick moment for the chamber. Obviously, we're doing a lot of very consequential issues here. And oftentimes on the big bills, I kind of have a three-part test when I look at it. Number one, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? Two, does this legislation solve the problem that we're trying to solve? And then three, which I think sometimes we don't always kind of wrestle with, is what's the unintended consequences if this bill actually becomes law? And I think every single person, in fact, I know every single person in this chamber recognizes the problem we want to solve is we want to get rid of bad cops. All of us have that desire. I think my concerns about this bill is that it's going to have the unintended consequences of hurting the good cops. And I know I want to be clear for everybody in the chamber, you can now sue police officers. That is allowed right now under our current legal regime. In fact, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals just this year in the estate of Jones versus City of Martinsburg found 5 police officers were not allowed to use the qualified immunity defense. And in my hometown of Virginia Beach, very recently, the India Kager case in which she was a tragic victim in a shooting in which a perpetrator, Angelo Perry, was on the run. Virginia Beach SWAT team was attempting to execute an arrest warrant on him. He drew his weapon. The perpetrator fired several shots at the Virginia Beach SWAT team. They returned fire and very tragically took India's life. Her family filed an $80 million lawsuit against the city and the Virginia Beach Police Department, and they got an $800,000 verdict. And so qualified immunity is not just a blanket denial where people cannot bring litigation against police officers. But what this means is it establishes an entirely new standard where if you're a police officer engaging in a hot pursuit and you're driving above the speed limit, you could technically be and get an access, negligence per se, you could be sued. And so what's this going to happen is my concern is that is a time when we say, you know what, we need the good cops. We need good police officers. In my hometown of Virginia Beach, we are down between 60 and 80 police officers. These are open positions that we can't fill. And we're going to have officers that are basically going to be faced with the fact that they could be sued, as they're doing their $40,000 or $50,000 a year job. And so I've heard a lot of argument that not just this bill, but all other bills are not by police. And what I would just say, ask everybody in this chamber, why don't we actually listen to what the police are saying? And why I've been inundated with phone calls and with emails and with letters from officers all around the state is this is going to make our job immeasurably harder. And we've just looked at a host of bills that are going to make law enforcement jobs harder and more dangerous. And now we are basically putting them in the position where the good cops are all going to leave. Because if they're going to stay in the job they are, the liability exposure is just simply going to be enormous. And a lot of that's going to be paid by the localities and the taxpayers, which means they're going to be defending lawsuits instead of putting money into better police training and recruiting and hiring better cops. So I'd urge this body to vote no on HB 5013.
Thank you, Delegate Miaris. Delegate from Norfolk, Delegate Jones.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaking to the bill.
Delegate Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of the House, I first want to thank the patron. I think he has poured his heart and soul into this and worked with a number of stakeholders to get this bill to a point where it certainly has merit and it certainly should be given an affirmative vote. But I also, I think we all know the schematics of the bill. We all know what it does or what we think it does or what we think it doesn't do. But as I've sort of had conversations about this bill with folks over the last several months, I've been drawn to a couple of different sources as I think about where we're going. And so I want to draw the Chamber's attention to a quote from Abraham Lincoln from December 1st, 1862. In one of his messages to Congress, he said, "We can succeed only by concert. It is not, can any of us imagine better, but can we all do better? The dogmas of our quiet past are inadequate for the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion." I think over the last 6 months, everybody has been forced to look inward. We've seen some horrifying things across this country. We've had things come to light from Virginia, and I would urge everybody to listen to Lincoln. I think those words are instructive. But I've also been pulled back to a book that I read in elementary school. I talk a lot with Delegate Ware, and he's probably one of the most well-read people that I've ever met. But my book that I'm going to talk about is Walk Two Moons by Sharon Creech. And the point of the book is that you really need to walk 2 moon cycles in someone's shoes before you can really understand where they're coming from and their perspective. And so I would urge everybody, as you think about how you're going to vote, walk 2 moon cycles in some of the shoes of the voices who have been talking about this for decades and really generations. There have been voices that have been saying this bill or policies like this will make our lives marginally better. Not change our lives radically, but marginally better. It is tough walking through this Commonwealth in this country as a person of color. I think a lot of my colleagues would agree, if not all. And we have been talking about things like this for a long, long time. And we have a moment in front of us where we can address these things and make people's lives a little bit better. This will give the redress that folks deserve, and it's a good step. And so, again, I would urge you to listen to Lincoln. I'd urge you to think about walking moon cycles in other people's shoes. I know that we talk a lot about empathy in this chamber and in this body, and I think this is one of those moments when everybody should think about how deep is your well of empathy. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Delegate Jones. The delegate from Richmond City, Delegate Bourne.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, this bill has been discussed and debated not only this session, but the years past. And really it boils down to, are we going to afford Virginians who find themselves on the business end of excessive force the ability to better and more fairly fight for some redress and relief in our state courts? I would caution everyone to not believe the red herrings about officers exposing themselves to liability, because as we've just heard on this floor today and in other committees, we can sue law enforcement now. However, what we're trying to change is the legal construct which in overwhelming majority of cases prevents access to justice for families and victims. So, Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, I would urge you to vote yes, because this is an important bill, and as my good friend, the delegate from Norfolk said, it will change lives marginally and make it a better place, a more equitable place for all Virginians. So I'd again urge you to vote yes.
Thank you, Delegate Bourne. Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Brewer. Delegate Brewer has voted. Delegate Hayes.
Nay.
Delegate Brewer votes nay. Delegate Hayes.
Delegate Hayes is an abstention.
Delegate Hayes abstains.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 47, nays 48, abstentions 3.
Ayes 47, nays 48, abstentions 3. The bill fails to report.
Page 5 of the calendar, House Bill 5028, a bill to amend and reenact Section 65.2, 402.1 of the Code of Virginia relating to workers' compensation, presumption as to death or disability from COVID-19.
Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Delegate Bourne votes aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Leftwich. Delegate Leftwich has voted.
The clerk will please close the roll.
Ayes 61, nays 37, abstentions 0.
Ayes 61, nays 37, abstentions 0. The bill passes.
Page 6 of the calendar, House Bill 5029, a bill to amend the Code of Virginia by adding in Article 4 of Chapter 4 of Title 18.2, a section numbered 18.2, 57.5, relating to law enforcement officer, failure to intervene in use of excessive force, penalties.
Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Sullivan.
Aye.
Delegate Sullivan votes aye. Delegate Wampler.
The clerk will please close the roll.
Ayes 55, nays 42, abstentions 0.
Ayes 55, nays 42, abstention 0. The bill passes.
House Bill 5050, a bill to amend and reenact Sections 2.2, 4343, and 44-146.17 of the Code of Virginia relating to emergency services and disaster law, powers and duties of governor, purchase of personal protective equipment during a disaster caused by a communicable disease of public health threat.
Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Fowler.
The clerk will please close the roll.
Ayes 58, nays 39, abstentions 0.
Ayes 58, nays 39, abstention 0. The bill passes.
Page 7, House Bill 5051, a bill to amend and reenact Section 15.2-1707 of the Code of Virginia relating to decertification of law enforcement officer.
Shall the bill pass?
Madam Speaker,
Yes, delegate from Albemarle. Delegate Bell.
I rise to speak to the bill.
Delegate Bell, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, members of the body, this is the bill that we had a colloquy yesterday, the delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Simon and I. And the issue again is under what circumstances should there be an automatic decertification? After the dialogue, I went and spoke to the people at DCJS just to make sure I understood the process. And what they said is that with the bill as written, once someone is notified, and again, the sheriff or police chief has to notify if a termination is a violation of the agency's policies or procedures or a violation of state or federal law, that the decertification happens. The board shall, within 10 days of that decertification, notify the affected officer. Then within 30 days of the receipt, he can request the board review it. Then they will schedule a hearing within 60 days. And then they have up to 30 days to rule. During all of those times, the officer is decertified. He can't get another job. Now, again, if we're talking about use of force, which I thought was the purpose of this whole approach, then that makes sense. You've got a person who's terminated for use of force issue, and you want them to be nowhere near law enforcement unless they're somehow recertified by DCJS. But for all the other reasons that an officer can be fired, and again, the policies of a sheriff's office, they can be written down or it can just be the sheriff's policies. Those are employees at will. It would decertify him unless and until he proves, and he can get a lawyer, so he can even hire a lawyer, spend money on that he can prove by preponderance of the evidence good cause for his certification to be reinstated. Again, a policy that addressed use of force issues would be a good policy, but this is going to impact a whole lot more than that. And so I would encourage my colleagues to vote no.
Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bagby. Delegate Bagby has voted. Delegate Bourne.
Aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye.
The clerk will please close the roll.
Ayes 57, nays 41, abstentions 0.
Ayes 57, nays 41, abstentions 0. The bill passes.
House Bill 5069, a bill to amend the Code of Virginia by adding a section numbered 18.2, 51.8, relating to law enforcement officers, prohibition on the use of neck restraints, penalty.
The delegate from Rockbridge, Delegate Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to have a point of personal privilege here.
Would you like to speak to the bill? Yes, Delegate Campbell.
To the bill.
Delegate Campbell, you have the floor.
Yesterday, I voiced my opposition to this bill, and basically, my main point was that the bill does not allow for a police officer who's losing a fight to use defensive tactics that are taught to them in its basic academies. All the academies in Virginia that I checked with, the police officers, the sheriffs, everyone that I checked with for over 50 years have been taught the same thing, that there is a neck restraint that police officers are taught, and they can only use this restraint when they're losing a fight. It came apparent yesterday that the Senate version has amended their bill. The patron would not agree to anything. She even went on to say that there was other options for the police officers. I would like to point out that at 2 o'clock in the morning, when you're alone and you're in the bottom of the ditch with somebody on top of you beating the crap out of you, there is no other option except to pull your gun. If police officers are allowed in these types of situations to use defensive tactics that were taught to them in the academy, and this is the only time that they can use it, then it would help save public lives and police officer lives. So I would encourage everyone to vote no with me on this bill, and let's look at the Senate version when it comes over. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Delegate Campbell. Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Delegate Bourne votes aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Corey.
Delegate Corey votes aye.
Delegate Corey votes aye. Delegate Murphy.
The clerk will please close the roll.
Yes.
It's okay.
Did it get counted?
The clerk will close the roll. We got it, Delegate Murphy.
Thank you.
Ayes 55, nays 43, abstentions 0.
Ayes 55, nays 43, abstentions 0. The bill passes.
Page 8, House Bill 5098, a bill to amend and reenact Section 18.2, 461 of the Code of Virginia relating to hate crime, falsely summoning or giving false reports to law enforcement officials, penalty.
Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Aird. Delegate Bourne.
Aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Corey.
The clerk will...
Madam Speaker, Delegate Corey is muted.
Delegate Corey, will you please unmute?
Yes, I'm trying to vote aye. Thank you.
Delegate Corey votes aye.
The clerk will please close the roll.
Ayes 55, nays 43, abstentions 0.
Ayes 55, nays 43, abstention 0. The bill passes.
Page 8, House Bill 5104, a bill to amend and reenact sections 15.2, 1705, and 1709 of the Code of Virginia relating to minimum qualifications for law enforcement officer, etc., disclosure of information.
Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Freitas. Delegate Gilbert. Delegate Gilbert has voted. Delegate Sumaira. Delegate Wampler.
The clerk will please close the roll.
Ayes 54, nays 42, abstentions 0.
Ayes 54, nays 42, abstention 0. The bill passes.
Page 9, House Bill 5109, a bill to amend and reenact sections 9.1, 102, 15.2, 1705 of the Code of Virginia and to amend the code by adding a section numbered 9.1, 112.1 relating to the Department of Criminal Justice Services, law enforcement officer training and qualifications.
Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Corey.
Aye.
Delegate Corey votes aye. Delegate Poindexter.
Aye.
Delegate Poindexter votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 97, nays 1, abstentions 0.
Ayes 97, nays 1, abstention 0. The bill passes.
Page 10, House Bill 5045, a bill to amend and reenact Section 18.2, 64.2 of the Code of Virginia relating to carnal knowledge of a person in the custody of a law enforcement officer or an inmate, parolee, probationer, detainee, or pretrial defendant or post-trial offender, local or state law enforcement officer, penalty.
Shall the bill pass? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Robinson. Delegate Robinson votes aye. Delegate Sickles.
The clerk will please close the roll.
Ayes 98, nays 0, abstentions 0.
Ayes 98, nays 0, abstention 0. The bill passes.
House bills on second reading uncontested calendar. Page 10, House Bill 5113, a bill to amend the Code of Virginia by adding a section numbered 22.1, 207.4:1 relating to certain school boards, student meals, participation in the community eligibility provision, reported from appropriations with amendments.
The delegate from Prince William, Delegate Rome.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move the committee amendments.
Shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All those in favor shall say aye.
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 All those opposed? The amendments are agreed to. Delegate Rome.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, members of the House, HB 5113 turns Virginia school participation in the USDA Food and Nutrition Service Community Eligibility Provision into an opt-out process instead of an opt-in process for eligible schools in order to feed more students free breakfast and lunch. In the limited circumstance when an evaluation shows that school participation in CEP might not be financially viable at the time of the application, the second line amendment provides that VDOE shall issue a waiver to such schools. I hope it's the will of the body to engross the bill and pass it on to third reading.
Shall the bill be engrossed and passed on to its third reading? All those in favor shall say aye.
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 Those opposed? The bill is engrossed and passed on to its third reading.
House bills on second reading, regular calendar. Page 2, returning to page 2 of the calendar, House Bill 5030. A bill to amend and reenact Section 15.2.1812 of the Code of Virginia relating to monuments and memorials for war veterans. Reported from Rules with amendments.
Madam Speaker.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Simon.
Madam Speaker, having voted on the prevailing side by which we adopted the Rules Committee Amendments 1 and 2 yesterday, I now move that we reconsider that vote.
Second.
So Delegate Simon has a motion. Shall the House reconsider? So you move, Delegate Simon moves that the House reconsider the adoption of amendments 1 and 2.
from the Rules Committee.
And Delegate Simon.
Madam Speaker, just speaking very briefly of the motion, we adopted those two in a block, which is why I'm asking that they be reconsidered in a block. I'm then going to go ahead in a minute and ask that we reject, that we vote no on adoption of 1, which is a title change that corresponded to Amendment 3, which we rejected yesterday. So we're just trying to clean up the title of the bill so that the title matches our actions on the bill yesterday. And so to do that, the first step is to reconsider the block vote by which we adopted Amendments 1 and 2. I'll then ask that we move to adopt Amendment 1 and vote no on that, and then move that we adopt Amendment 2 separately and we vote yes on that. But for now, I ask that we reconsider the vote by which we adopted both amendments in block from the Rules Committee yesterday.
Shall the House reconsider the adoption of amendments 1 and 2? As many as favor that motion shall say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
The motion is agreed to. Delegate Simon.
Speaker, I now move that adoption of Amendment 1 from the Rules Committee, but I will urge the members, upon the question being asked, to please vote no. When the Speaker asks, shall the committee amendment be agreed to, I hope that we'll all say no, so that amendment will not be agreed to, and I'll be consistent with our not voting for Amendment 3 yesterday. So with that, Madam Speaker, I move adoption of Amendment 1, asking the members to please vote no.
Shall amendment number 1 be agreed to? As many as favor the motion shall say aye. Those opposed shall say no.
No.
The amendment is rejected.
No.
Madam Speaker, I move adoption of Rules Committee Amendment number 2. I urge the members to vote yes.
Shall the amendment number 2 be agreed to? As many as favor the motion shall say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion is agreed to.
And Madam Speaker, finally, I move that we engross House Bill 5030 and move it on to its third reading again so that we can vote on this on Tuesday.
Shall HB 5030 be engrossed and passed on? Yes, Delegate Poindexter.
Madam Speaker, speak to the bill.
Delegate Poindexter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, members of the House, this bill, even with the amendments, it removes any meaningful participation by the citizens and any transparency at the local level on the removing of war memorials. We all know that's very controversial. The public notice part has been removed from the bill. No hearings, no public hearings. And I want to point out to the members of the body that that's probably the sole exception in Virginia business. Whenever a local government or a private entity in a locality makes a land use change or demolishes something, changes, removes anything, we always have public hearings and we always have public notice. That's just not good governance in this bill to do that with monuments and not have that for monuments. This bill, Madam Speaker, members of the body, allows the alteration of historical monuments and memorials. There's no definition of what that is. It can be anything. It can be an Antifa label on a World War II memorial. It's not all about Confederate monuments. It's not good policy. Madam Speaker, the body, House Bill 5030 removes the requirement for the local government to have to offer any statues, memorials, etc. removed to historical organizations, museums, or anything else, implying destruction. This is priceless art regardless of what you think about it. It's historical items. You agree or disagree with them, but they're certainly historical items from the saga of the United States and the saga of Virginia, our Commonwealth. We should not authorize such as this. Madam Speaker, members of the body, I'm also concerned about something I didn't mention yesterday, and that's the potential implications of this bill on legal and investigative matters that are going on in the Commonwealth of Virginia today. Very specifically, the mayor in Richmond has removed monuments prior to the 1 July new law in effect. There's legal action on that. The method of doing that with the company, NAHLCC or whatever it was, is in controversy and apparently going under investigation. And this body in the House here, I don't think we should be interfering in what can potential rulings of the court, such as ruling something moot when we've done something after the case was filed. I think that would be injustice. And finally, Madam Speaker and members of the body, I would hope, and indeed I would pray, that our action on this bill that goes into law will not result in my hallowed Commonwealth ever being defined or being viewed, being referred to, being thought of as being Al-Qaeda-like in terms of altering and destroying historical records of impeccable value to the history of mankind. Madam Speaker, members of the body, I would encourage you to vote against this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Delegate Poindexter. Delegate Simon moved that HB 5030 be engrossed and pass on to its third reading. We'll move forward. Shall HB 5030 be engrossed and pass on to its third reading? As many as favor the motion shall say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The bill is engrossed and passed on to its third reading.
No.
The bill is engrossed and passed on to its third reading. Madam Clerk.
Page 11 of the calendar, House Bill 5072, a bill to amend and reenact Section 2.2520 of the Code of Virginia and to amend the Code of Virginia by adding a section numbered 2.2511.1 relating to law enforcement misconduct, reported from courts of justice and reported from appropriations. There was a floor substitute from Delegate LaRocque, but it has been withdrawn.
The delegate from Arlington, Delegate Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaking to the bill.
Delegate Lopez, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, members of the body, this bill will enable the Attorney General of Virginia to conduct pattern or practice investigations of law enforcement agencies to identify and put a stop to unconstitutional practices such as patterns of excessive force, illegal searches, or biased policing. So under the bill, whenever the AG has reasonable cause to believe that law enforcement agencies are engaging in and have established a pattern or practice of action that deprives a person of their rights, privileges, or immunities HB 5072 would authorize the Attorney General to finally investigate, gather data, subpoena, and bring appropriate actions in court to ensure compliance with constitutional policing standards. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Shall the bill be engrossed and passed on to its third reading? All those in favor shall say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
The bill is engrossed and passed on to its third reading.
Page 12, House Bill 5087, a bill to amend and reenact Section 60.2712 of the Code of Virginia and to repeal the third and fourth enactments of Chapter 1261 of the Acts of Assembly of 2020 relating to unemployment compensation, short-term compensation, sunset repeal with an emergency. Reported from Labor and Commerce and reported from Appropriations.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Tran.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I rise to speak to the bill.
Delegate Tran, you have the floor.
Thank you. So you may recall that in the 2020 regular session, we passed legislation that establishes a short-term compensation program. These types of programs provide flexibility to employers who are experiencing a slowdown in business, so they're able to keep their employees on a reduced work schedule, so as part-time employees, rather than laying them off, and helps them to not have to hire and retrain new workers when the economy picks up. And then the affected employees are able to collect unemployment insurance benefits prorated and retain any health or retirement benefits. This legislation removes the enactment clauses that we had included when we passed the original bill in 2020, because after we had done so, we learned that under the CARES Act, the U.S. Department of Labor has funds available to help states with administering and implementing these types of programs. However, the programs can't have an end date. And so this legislative fix under this bill would allow Virginia to take full advantage of about $2.7 million in federal funds to implement this program. And I hope it's the will of the body to move this bill to its third read to engross the bill and move it to its third read. Thank you,
Delegate Tran. The delegate from Roanoke, Delegate McNamara.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask the delegate to yield for a question.
Will the delegate yield?
I yield.
The delegate yields. Delegate McNamara, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to ask the delegate if you are aware the CARES Act will not fund might fund the administrative costs, but it will not fund the actual cost of implementing this program or the impact on the Virginia trust system, unemployment trust system. Delegate
Tran.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would respond to the delegate by saying he's correct, and I believe I did say in my comments that the $2.7 million would go towards the administration of the program. However, if employers choose to, if we don't implement this program with the support of the CARES Act, then employers would, let me just back up a second. Employers, the UI Trust Fund remains affected the same either way. Employers who choose to use this program or not and allow their employees to just go 100% on UI still have to contribute their portion into the UI tax fund. What this does is actually saves employers time and money by not having to recruit, hire, and retrain new workers in the end. So I think at the end of the day, it becomes a win-win situation for those employers.
Delegate McNamara.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May the delegate yield for a final question?
Will the delegate yield?
I do.
The delegate yields. Delegate McNamara.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the delegate, I would say that the Code of Virginia requires that any general session bill enhancing the benefits payable under the Unemployment Compensation Act has to have a statement projecting the impact on the Unemployment Trust Fund and the impact on employer unemployment tax liability. So we are changing the unemployment tax, the unemployment fund, perhaps, or the unemployment requirements. We are changing the requirements for unemployment. We are expanding the availability of unemployment compensation, but we are not evaluating, and maybe that's a good idea, but we are not evaluating the costs associated, the impact on the trust fund or the contribution levels requirement into the pools from the employers. Was there some reason why the code in Virginia was not followed in this bill?
Delegate Tran.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I would respond to the delegate by noting that we do have a fiscal impact statement that was developed by the Department of Planning and Budget, as they do for all other bills. And so I think we followed the process to ask for that FIS. And I do want to clarify that in code currently, we do have a short-term compensation program that was established. This does not create a new program, and perhaps the delegate might seek a clarification from the Department of Planning and Budget on their development of the FIS. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And
Thank you, Delegate
Speaker,
McNamara.
at the appropriate time.
Delegate McNamara, did you want to
Speak to the bill at the appropriate time.
This is the appropriate time. Delegate McNamara, it's all yours.
Thank you. Well, I think the expansion of short-time unemployment compensation may be a desire and a will of this body, and that's not really what I'm debating here right now, but I do believe we should go through the process of understanding what the budgetary impact. A FISC creates the budgetary impact to the Commonwealth. Separate from the FISC, we are required in Section 301903-12 of our code that any bill enhancing benefits payable, which this bill does, shall be considered in a General Assembly regular session, must develop a statement impacting the solvency level of the unemployment trust fund and the increase in state unemployment tax liability for the employers. I think we should be doing that before we go forward with this bill. We have changed the short time compensation from the session, the reconvened session, because that had an ending date. That had an ending date of December 31, 2022 or 21, I'm not sure. This bill has no ending date, so it's something that we'll be looking at and employers paying for, and it may or may not be the best thing for our employees. I would encourage this body to go through our processes and evaluate the total impact on the unemployment trust fund and the employer's level of tax liability. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Shall the bill be engrossed and passed on to its third reading? All those in favor shall say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
The bill is engrossed and passed on to its third reading.
Resolutions on regular calendar, page 12 of the calendar. House Joint Resolution 5002 has gone by for the day. Page 13, House Joint Resolution 5010, confirming various appointments by the Speaker of the House of Delegates, reported from rules.
The delegate from Newport News, Delegate Mullen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, HJ 5010 confirms appointments that you have made, Madam Speaker, to the Tobacco Region Revitalization Commission, as well as the VCU Health System Authority Board of Directors and the Virginia Conflict of Interest and Ethics Advisory Council. I would ask the body to approve this resolution.
Shall the resolution be agreed to? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Brewer.
Nay.
Delegate Brewer votes nay. Delegate Herring.
Aye.
Delegate Herring votes aye. Delegate Sumaira. Delegate Wampler.
The clerk will please close the roll.
Ayes 51, nays 39, abstentions 6.
Ayes 51, nays 39, abstentions 6. The resolution passes.
House Joint Resolution 5012, confirming the appointment of Amigo R. Wade as Director of the Division of Legislative Services, reported from rules.
The delegate from Norfolk, Delegate Lindsay.
Madam Speaker, speaking to the resolution.
Delegate Lindsay, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, today is a most auspicious occasion, not just because we're filling the position of Director of the Division of Legislative Services, but because we're filling it with an all-around super guy, Amico Wade. Amico Wade, some of you would attest to being, a very worthy steward of this body's trust. Amico was a 1984 graduate of Cornell University and a 1988 graduate of American University, Washington College of Law. I'll add, a law school where two of our most august members also attended. After being employed for 10 years with the Virginia Department of Professional and Occupational Regulations, DPOR, he started what has now been a 23-year career with Legislative Services. Since his first session of 1997, Amico has risen from staff attorney to deputy and now acting director and in anticipation of director of the Division of Legislative Services. A man of faith, Mr. Wade serves as the deacon board of St. Paul's Baptist Church. He's married to his high school sweetheart, Marcita, and they are the proud parents of 3 children, Jasmine and twins Amia and Amara. Madam Speaker, I commend the candidate Amico Wade to this body for his consideration to fill the position of Director of Legislative Services. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the amendment. I move the resolution.
Thank you, Delegate Lindsay. Delegate from Shenandoah, Delegate Gilbert.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaking to the resolution.
Delegate Gilbert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to add my voice to Delegate Lindsay. I also have super great guy in my notes here, but he already took that. I'm going to have to think of something else. Madam Speaker, having worked with Mr. Wade in committee over the years, I think all of us who've done that know that he is a consummate professional and is precisely the type of leadership we need at the helm over there. I think he has the trust of his fellow attorneys and staff, and will do a fine job. And so, again, I want to concur with Delegate Lindsay in his assessment and support of Mr. Wade for confirmation for this position. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Delegate Gilbert. The delegate from Richmond City, Delegate McQuinn.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, speaking to House Joint Resolution 5012, confirming the appointment of Amico Wade as the Director of the Division of Legislative Services. I too just want to add my voice because to this matter, because I have worked with Mr. Wade now for quite a few years, and have certainly would like to have witnessed his leadership in terms of serving the committees, regardless of the ask. And I think that we have an opportunity in appointing him to continue to move certainly our Commonwealth forward in the department or the Division of Legislative Services. Amigo, because of his broad knowledge of Virginia's regulatory processes, Amigo certainly have been a regular lecturer for the Council on Licensure, Enforcement, and Regulation. He also leads by example while heading the Legislative Services for the last 9 months. Amigo still has retained significant involvement in drafting legislation and staffing committee. And I know that personally because I've had to call on him several times. Not only is he highly respected by members of the General Assembly, he also enjoys wide support among Legislative Services staff. Amigo possesses the intellect and the people skill to thrive as the Director of Legislative Services. He has been extremely responsive, engaging, and more than that, he's been a gentleman in that position, and we are grateful for that. So, Madam Speaker, I certainly hope it would be the pleasure of this body to affirm and support House Joint Resolution 5012, which would confirm the appointment of Amigo R. Wade as Director of the Division of Legislative Services. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Delegate McQuinn. Shall the resolution be agreed to? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Poindexter.
Aye.
Delegate Poindexter votes aye. Delegate Sumaira. Delegate Willett. Delegate Willett has voted.
The clerk will please close the roll.
Ayes 97, nays 0, abstentions 0.
Ayes 97, nays 0, abstentions 0. The resolution is agreed to.
House Resolution 541, confirming nominations by the Speaker of the House of Delegates to the House Ethics Advisory Panel, reported from Rules.
The delegate from Newport News, Delegate Mullen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, H.R. 541 confirms your appointments, Madam Speaker, to the House Ethics Advisory Panel. This resolution came out of Rules 18-0, and I would move this resolution.
Shall the resolution be agreed to? Madam Clerk.
Delegate Bourne.
Aye.
Delegate Bourne votes aye. Delegate Edmonds. Delegate Leftwich. Delegate Sumaira. Delegate Webert.
The clerk will please close the roll.
Ayes 96, nays 0. Delegate Webert, you voted aye.
Madam Clerk.
Ayes 97, nays 0, abstentions 0.
Ayes 97, nays 0, abstention 0. The resolution is agreed to. The House will be at ease. So please come to order. Madam Clerk.
Memorial resolutions laid on the Speaker's table. The resolutions to be adopted in block are listed on page 14 of the calendar.
Does any member wish to remove a resolution from the block? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting in block the memorial resolutions laid on the Speaker's table listed on page 14 of the calendar will please rise. The resolutions are agreed to.
Commending resolutions. Commending resolutions laid on the Speaker's table. The resolutions to be adopted in block are listed on page 14 of the calendar.
Does any member wish to remove a resolution from the block? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting in block the commending resolutions laid on the Speaker's table as listed on page 14 of the calendar will please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? The resolutions are agreed to.
Madam Speaker, that completes the calendar.
The delegate from Alexandria, Leader Herring.
Madam Speaker, I move that when the House adjourned today, it adjourn to reconvene Tuesday, September 8th at 4 p.m.
The delegate from Alexandria, Leader Herring, moves that when the House adjourned today, it adjourn to reconvene Tuesday, September 8th at 4 p.m. As many as favor the motion shall say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
The motion is agreed to. The delegate from Alexandria, Leader Herring.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
The delegate from Alexandria, Delegate Herring, moves that the House do now adjourn. As many as favor that motion shall say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? The motion is agreed to. The House stands adjourned until Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 at 4 p.m.